I've been thinking a lot about this Torah portion for 30 years. This is the 30th anniversary of my senior sermon in rabbinic school. I'm not going to give the same sermon, but I am struck by actually some scholars at the Pardes Institute in Jerusalem talking about a similar aspect of it. But I want to also frame it in this moment that we're in before this consequential election, which may take us many days to truly understand the results of. And so some of us may be feeling that the waters, the flood waters, they're very stormy waters in our country right now. Does anybody feel that? And imagine what Noah felt, some very stormy waters. And God says to him, Bo el ha-teva, come after he constructed it, which is amazing, by the way. I think Noah's the first human being that actually listens to God, speaking about listening to your wife. Listens to God, right? Because all the human experiments before that are pretty big disasters. The rest of the human community at Noah's time is also a pretty big disaster. That's why the flood is brought. But this one guy, Noah, Ish Tamim Bedorotav, Ish Tam, he's a very clear-minded person in this generation. And he listens to God, he makes the ark, and then finally God says, go inside it. You need to go into a place where you can feel protected, where you can feel the love of your family, where you can feel that the things that you love will continue to exist no matter how stormy it is outside. And this commentator, the Piazetzner Rebbe, makes a connection between the waters of the flood and the waters that are spoken about in the Song of Songs. The waters that are spoken about in the Song of Songs, right, it said that even mighty, mighty waters, Maim Rabim, cannot extinguish this love. It's a very powerful verse from the Song of Songs. And so the Piazetzner Rebbe says, that's what needs to happen for Noah, and that's what needs to happen for us as well. This knowledge that no matter what is swirling around us, or how distracted we might be by politics, by professional stuff, by personal stuff, by economics, by politics, by a war, another war, by the great losses, right? All of that is this stormy water around us. And the Piazetzner Rebbe, who was the Rebbe in the Warsaw Ghetto, he says that what we need to be able to understand is that at the core of who we are and the love that we need to feel amongst ourselves and with God, nothing can extinguish that. Nothing can extinguish our values. Nothing can extinguish who we are. Rabbi Nachman says, he's famous for saying something you know, which is, Kol ha'olam kulo, the whole world is a very narrow bridge. And as you know, I like to say that that second part of that phrase isn't, and you shouldn't be afraid at all, but it's, do not let fear paralyze you. We cannot be paralyzed. And so the scholar in Jerusalem quoted a different Rabbi Nachman quote this week, which is, Asur lehityaesh. It is forbidden to despair. One cannot give in to despair, which you can see where that comes from, a similar thing. And he encourages us to also find that way into the ark that we need. Because what does the ark do for Noah? The ark allows Noah and his family, and the ark that we need to create together, also allows them to float right on those waters. Those waters are something that become experience for him and for all humankind, but they're not going to extinguish everything that he cares about. And so it's a very powerful Torah portion to be reading in these times, in a time where we need to, I think, often come in to sacred spaces together, to come into closer relationships with those with whom we can speak and work and pray and talk and learn and do good deeds with. I'm also struck, one more thing, I'm struck by the idea of the word teva, which is the word here in Hebrew that means the ark, literally, right, Noah's Ark, but it also means a few other things. It also means this kind of ark, right, that carries the Torah. It's that into which you put that which is most valuable to you, that you want to save it above the floodwaters. But also, I'm thinking of the voting booth as a teva, right? Because it is a teva, the box, right? You call it a kalpi in modern Hebrew, right? But I'm thinking about that experience of going into how we do it in America, right? You step into those of us who voted in person. Anybody else vote? Oh, good. Anybody else yet to vote? You have a plan, right? And you know where to go and you're registered, right? You're going into this space also where you yourself, first of all, you have to understand an awful lot of things about what's on the ballot, so be sure to be prepared. But you're going into a space where you're being asked, what are your values? What do you truly value above all things? And if you have to make a choice, you have to value some things over other things. So for Noah, going into that ark and for his family, and I think for us at this time, it can be a time to clarify for ourselves what's truly important. It could be a time where we can also feel God's greater goodness. But there's one more thing about that ark, which is that God asks him, and this connects to what Rabbi Berlin said, God asks Noah to be sure to have a skylight in the roof of it, which actually didn't really make a lot of sense if you're expecting that much rain. But why did he need that skylight, that window, that soar? Why did he need it? Because the dove, right, Tamara? The dove needed to be able to come into the window. But also, the Baal Shem Tov says, we should never be so closed inside our ark and our sacred spaces that we can no longer see and hear what others are saying. We should never be so closed off that we can't have, right, that dove, that olive branch, being able to make its way to us, and we need to be able to see out and see forward, and as Rabbi Berlin said, to be able to believe in and be able to see when it appears that rainbow. For as long as it takes, we keep the essence of that vision in mind. Shabbat Shalom.